Miami, Florida. Federal Detention Center. Tuesday, March 12, 1985. At 2:37 p.m., Griselda Blanco entered the interrogation room escorted by two federal agents. She was not handcuffed because technically that meeting was voluntary. Griselda had requested to speak with the DEA. She wanted to make a deal. On the other side of the scratched metal table was Special Agent Robert Palombo, the man who had spent the last 6 years of his life pursuing Griselda, building cases against her, losing witnesses who disappeared or were murdered before they could testify, and finally managing to arrest her in February 1985 on charges of conspiracy to traffic cocaine. Palombo looked at the woman sitting in front of him and saw Miami's cocaine queen, the Black Widow, the woman responsible for importing more than 3 tons of cocaine per month into the United States at her peak, the cartel boss who turned Miami from a sleepy tourist city into the world capital of drug trafficking. But at that moment, Griselda did not look like a crime queen. She was 42 years old, but looked a decade older. Her dark hair was graying at the roots. Her face marked by deep wrinkles from stress and paranoia. Her hands trembled slightly when she lit a cigarette without asking permission. Palombo let her smoke. He had waited years for this moment. Years investigating, building cases, losing men who got too close to Griselda's operations and paid with their lives. Now she wanted to talk. He could wait 2 more minutes while she gathered her thoughts. Griselda took 3 deep drags on the cigarette before speaking. Her voice was low, hoarse from years of smoking, but controlled. There was zero emotion in it, zero fear. She spoke like an executive discussing contract terms, not like a criminal facing decades in prison. "I know what you have against me, Palombo," she began. "Conspiracy to traffic, witnesses who will say I ordered imports, financial records that link my money to the operations. You have a solid case. I'm not going to pretend you don't. But here's the truth. You arrest me, get your conviction, I get 15, maybe 20 years. You become a DEA hero. You put the cocaine queen in prison. You get a promotion, comfortable retirement, and cocaine trafficking in Miami doesn't change at all. Zero. Nothing." She stubbed out the cigarette forcefully in the metal ashtray. "Because I'm not the one you should be hunting. I'm just the distribution, the logistics. I move the product that comes from Colombia to Miami, and from there to the rest of the country. But the product isn't mine. The empire isn't mine. I work for people you've never touched, never got close to, don't even know their real names. And those people will keep operating with or without me. They'll put another operator in my place in a week. Someone younger, more violent, harder to catch. And you'll spend another 6 years chasing that person while tons of cocaine keep flooding your city." Palombo did not interrupt. He had learned over years of interrogations that when criminals start talking, you let them talk until they're done. Griselda lit another cigarette. "But I can give you something worth more than my imprisonment. I can give you the entire operation. Names, routes, transportation methods, money laundering schemes, corrupt officials in 3 countries, political connections that protect the cartel. I can give you information that would destroy cocaine importation into Miami for the next 5 years. Not just my operation, the entire operation, the whole structure that allows Colombian cocaine to reach American streets." Palombo finally spoke. His voice was skeptical, hard. "And in exchange you want what, Griselda? Immunity? Witness protection? New identity and comfortable life in some small Midwestern town?" Griselda laughed. A short, bitter laugh with no real humor. "No, Palombo. I'm not stupid enough to think the DEA will give me immunity. You want me locked up too badly. You want the headline. You want to show the public you're winning the war on drugs. I understand that. I accept that." She leaned forward, her dark eyes fixed on Palombo's face. "Here's my offer. I give you everything. The entire operation. All the names, all the routes, everything you need to completely dismantle Colombian cocaine importation into Miami. And in exchange, you guarantee that my children stay alive." The silence that followed was absolute. Palombo studied Griselda's face for signs of manipulation, lying, strategic play. But what he saw was something he had never seen before in all the years pursuing her. Genuine fear. Not fear of prison, not fear of conviction. Pure, visceral, maternal fear. "My children are targets," Griselda continued. Her voice now had a crack in it, an emotion that wasn't there before. "I have 4 sons. Dixon, Uber, Osvaldo, and Michael. The 3 oldest are involved in the business because I brought them into it. I taught them. I used them. And now they're targets of all the enemies I made over 20 years in trafficking. rival cartels seeking revenge, families of people I killed, operators who want to take my territory, corrupt officials I have compromising information on. She paused, took a deep breath, tried to regain control. When I'm arrested, when I'm convicted, when I'm locked in a federal prison without the ability to protect my family, my sons will start dying. One by one. Dixon first because he's the oldest and most visible, then Uber, then Osvaldo. They'll be executed in retaliation for everything I did. And Michael, my youngest son, the only one who was never involved in the business, he'll die just for being my son, just for carrying my last name. Palombo kept his expression neutral, but his mind was racing through the implications. Griselda Blanco was responsible for possibly 200 murders personally, or by direct order. She had turned Miami into a war zone during the late 70s and early 80s. She had killed competitors, witnesses, innocents in the wrong place, even children when it suited her purposes. The idea that she was now offering to dismantle the entire Miami cocaine trafficking operation for protection for her sons was simultaneously credible and suspicious. "Why should I believe you?" Palombo asked. "Why should I believe this isn't just another manipulation? You built an empire lying, manipulating, eliminating anyone in your way. Give me one reason to believe this isn't just another game." Griselda crushed the second cigarette. "Because I have nothing left to gain by lying. You've already got me. The case is built. I'll be convicted no matter what I do. The only variable now is whether my sons survive or die. That's the only thing that still matters to me, and I'm offering to dismantle the biggest cocaine cartel operating in Miami in exchange for federal protection for my 4 sons. Not for me, for them." Palombo leaned back in his chair. "And exactly what kind of protection are you asking for?" Griselda already had the answer prepared. She had clearly thought about this for days, maybe weeks before making this request. "Continuous federal surveillance on my sons while I serve my sentence. Active protection against documented threats. If there are contracts to kill them, the DEA intervenes and neutralizes the threats. My sons get new identities if necessary. Relocation if necessary. But they stay alive. That's all I ask. Keep my sons alive and I give you all of Miami." She leaned back and crossed her arms. "And to prove I'm serious, I'll start right now. No signed deal. No guarantees. I'll give you the first 3 names right now, in this room, before you promise anything. 3 people you don't even know exist, but who are fundamental to the cocaine operation in Miami. You check those names, investigate them. And when you discover I'm giving you real information, information worth more than my conviction, then we talk about protection for my sons." What happened in the next 4 hours was something that would fundamentally change drug trafficking in Miami for the next 20 years. Griselda started talking, and she didn't stop. She gave names of importers the DEA had never identified, corrupt customs officials at 3 different ports, pilots who flew cocaine from Colombia to clandestine airstrips in Florida, speedboat operators who brought shipments by water, accountants who laundered money through legitimate businesses, lawyers who structured transactions to avoid detection, local politicians who took bribes to ignore suspicious activities. She described trafficking routes with such specific details that included GPS coordinates of delivery points. She explained concealment methods the DEA had never seen before, techniques for hiding cocaine in legitimate shipments so that drug-sniffing dogs couldn't detect it. She provided information on money laundering schemes so complex they involved banks in 7 different countries. Palombo recorded everything. 6 cassette tapes full of information representing 2 decades of insider knowledge on cocaine trafficking operations. And as Griselda spoke, Palombo began to understand that she wasn't bluffing. The information was too detailed, too specific, too valuable to be fabricated. She was really handing over the entire operation. At the end of the session, at 6:42 p.m., Griselda stopped talking. She was exhausted. Her voice was failing. But her eyes were still fixed on Palombo's face. "This is just the beginning," she said. "I have much more. Names that would make you rewrite everything you think you know about cocaine trafficking in Miami. But I won't give any more until I have written guarantee that my sons receive federal protection. Check what I gave you today. Investigate. And when you confirm I'm giving you pure gold, come back here and we talk terms." Palombo turned off the recorder. "If you're lying about anything you told me today, the deal is off. If we check your information and find out you're leading us in circles, there's no second chance." Griselda nodded. "I'm not lying. I never lied when I was at a real disadvantage. Check everything I said, then come back. Palombo took the 6 tapes to the DEA office in Miami and spent the next 72 hours verifying every name, every route, every detail Griselda had provided. What he discovered shocked him. Everything was true. Every name checked out. Every route was verifiable. Every corrupt official she identified had documented connections to trafficking operations when the DEA dug deeper. Griselda had delivered information worth literally millions of dollars in terms of future investigations. On Friday, March 15th, Palombo returned to the Federal Detention Center. He brought documents, a formal agreement offering limited federal protection to Griselda's 4 sons in exchange for full cooperation and testimony against her cartel associates. Griselda read every word of the document. Then she signed, and then she started talking again. Over the next 6 months, Griselda Blanco provided the DEA with the most comprehensive intelligence on cocaine trafficking operations the agency had ever received. She detailed the entire structure of the Colombian cartel operating in Miami, identified more than 60 major operators, provided evidence that led to 32 high-level arrests, revealed corruption schemes that resulted in the dismissal and arrest of 12 law enforcement officials. Her cooperation completely dismantled the distribution network that had turned Miami into the cocaine capital of the United States. But the price was high. Griselda was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. She served 19 years before being deported to Colombia in 2004. Her sons Dixon, Uber, and Osvaldo were all eventually murdered despite the federal protection, killed in retaliation by enemies who never forgot what their mother had done. Only Michael, the youngest son, survived. The consequences of Griselda's betrayal were massive. Cocaine trafficking in Miami never fully recovered. New cartels eventually filled the vacuum, but it took years. The information she provided allowed the DEA to dismantle routes and methods used for decades, and it set a dangerous precedent in the drug trafficking world, the idea that even the most powerful operators would give everything to protect family. Griselda Blanco was murdered in Medellin in 2012, shot by a motorcycle gunman. She was 69 years old. The promise she made to the DEA in March 1985 fundamentally changed drug trafficking in Miami, transforming the cocaine queen from a symbol of criminal power into an informant who destroyed the empire she had built, all in a desperate attempt to save her sons from a fate she herself had created through 20 years of relentless violence.